Did you know that you can have a biology that predisposes you to trauma? I'm going to be reviewing some of the most common biological factors that I teach in my Biology of Trauma masterclass that will predispose you to trauma. And get this, if you have had trauma, which again, who hasn't had trauma in their life? But if you're doing trauma work, if you're doing emotional work, counseling, therapy, it will actually keep you stuck in therapy because it will not allow your nervous system to shift out of a survival mode and into that parasympathetic safety, security mode. Let me review some of the most common biological factors that will keep you stuck in trauma therapy or will predispose you to trauma. Inflammation. Inflammation is one of the most common biological factors that I teach in my Biology of Trauma masterclass because it is almost predominant in everyone who has had trauma. And whether the inflammation came first and it predisposed you to trauma, or whether you had the trauma first and that's part of why you have inflammation, at this point, they're one and the same, and we've got to address the inflammation alongside the effective trauma therapies. Inflammation can come from your gut. Inflammation can come from autoimmune processes. Inflammation can come from your brain. But oftentimes there is inflammation going on in the body if someone is experiencing a trauma that maybe other people are only experiencing as a stress, or if they're not able to move through trauma therapy effectively. Vitamin and nutrient deficiencies is another major category of biological factors that I teach because it will keep someone stuck and it will predispose them to trauma. Our body runs on these nutrients. These nutrients are essential for things like making energy, clearing out toxins. Absolutely everything that goes on in our body requires all of these cofactors, vitamins, nutrients. And so if you're deficient, your body is going to have to feel that and adapt in order to still try to get everything done, knowing that there's this lack and deficiency over here. So the more stress that you put on your body, the more it's going to feel that deficiency. It's just like someone on your team who's not pulling their weight. The more activities you have to do, the more stress, the more responsibilities that is put on the team, the more you feel the lack of your team members' participation. And so it puts the body, it puts your biology, it puts your nervous system closer to that line of overwhelm. So then it doesn't take much to then tip it over the edge and put it into a trauma survival pattern. The third biological factor that I teach in my Biology of Trauma masterclass is oxidative stress. Oxidative stress can come from things like toxins, like heavy metals. Even if you have a mitochondrial deficiency, even if that's genetic, where we can look at your genes, we can see, hey, in your mitochondria, you have some inefficiencies that will create oxidative stress in your cells. The result is that it, again, will put it closer to that line of overwhelm so that as your body is faced with more stress, it gives in sooner than other people's body who is operating at a more efficient level. So we always look for areas of oxidative stress in the body when we're looking at the biology of trauma. We also need to look at viruses. And these are all kinds of viruses, certainly anything like Epstein-Barr virus, or for me, it was parvovirus back in my 20s. These types of viruses, even other types of infections, I would throw in here Lyme and mold. All of these things cause compromises to the cells, especially if there's also a nutrient deficiency, especially if there's also oxidative stress. It puts more of a burden on the body, which for the nervous system, it puts it closer to that line of overwhelm. It may already push it over into something where it is stressed, and then it doesn't take much more to push it into overwhelm and the trauma response. So we're always going to be looking for viral infections or other types of infections or histories of those that may still be compromising your system if you're experiencing life in a traumatic way, or you're trying to get through trauma therapy and find yourself stuck and just want to accelerate the process. Finally, I have saved the 3 most common biochemical imbalances that I see that predispose someone to trauma and keeps them stuck in their trauma patterns. And so when someone comes to me and they're wanting to move through their trauma therapy, they're wanting to accelerate their results, I'm asking them to do these labs. This is the methylation status. This is copper to zinc ratio, and this is pyrrole disorder. You can actually order these on your own. I've put the link down in the notes below so that you can order these labs yourself and get started with understanding if you have one of these three most common biochemical imbalances that are the biological factors predisposes you to trauma or will get you stuck in your trauma therapy. I'm Dr. Aimie, your medical authority on the freeze response, the biology of trauma, and helping you accelerate your journey.